Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Logbox. It's clobbering time, and I'm here with the extreme artist, formerly known as Marcus, and
Might change.
It's clobbering time. Usually we take two characters and fight it out or whatever, but I don't know. I think we've been doing this for over a year. We got like all the good character fights, so now we're kind of dealing with comic book concepts. So what would you retcon if you could? What would you retcon if you could in comics? But before we get into that, we'll filibuster, get some people to come in. I know we're streaming against a couple other popular shows, but it looks like for real this time. What April, I'll probably be back to my normal schedule.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So anyway, how you doing, Marcus?
I'm doing fine. A little tired today.
Yeah.
I mean, more than usual tired because it's late. I want to thank you. Those posts you make on X are fun, like with my work.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
So, for those of you who don't know what Marcus is talking about, like this week, everybody submitted pages.
I didn't know that. I said, I got to get this page into them. It's done. I don't want
to. Everybody submitted pages, and it's just so exciting. I'm putting them all in the folder. So, like, there's a big gap between Heroic Tales 2 and my next campaign will be Patriarch number 1. I'm waiting for it to be complete before we launch it. And the way it's working out, I bet you the King Fu Christmas special will probably be the next campaign.
Well, that'll be good. That's good.
I want to do that. And then I got to contact RJ from Critical Blast because the whole experiment is how fast can we get it in people's hands. So I want to get it out before Christmas. So it doesn't matter how well it does. I'll probably go with RJ from Critical Blast.
It's nice to hear the words RJ from Critical Blast again,
Yeah, because
that's when Rini uses that,
Yeah, well, she has huge campaigns. I have small campaigns, but he could do it all in a week. It took me 2 months to do my small, and I want to get it in people's hands before Christmas. The story's fun. I like the story. A couple of people you didn't read it, right? A couple of people read it already.
Well, I'm having a lot of fun with this,
Yes. So what Mark is talking about is I've been taking panels and cropping in panels and just putting panels.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun
on the page. So Marcus is drawing a series called I Love a Mystery. And as of right now, the main character is Poinsettia. She just moved into Science City, and she's having a rough time, and she kind of bumps into the public eye. That's the first story.
It looks to me like Poinsettia bumps into a lot of things.
She's poor girl. I don't want to spoil anything, but I got the first three. I got the first story. Obviously, the first story is written. The second story is outlined, and then I just came up with literally the villain for the third story.
You told me, yeah.
Yeah, the third villain. It's inspired by Mr. X. So it's such a good villain, and I bounced the idea off a couple of people. They're like, "How does that work? How's that? That's not going to work." So they made me re-flush out the villain, and now I think I know exactly how it's going to go. Can't wait to tell that story. So also, this is an open invite. Anybody who wants to come in and tell us about whatever retcons you think you would do if you were in charge of whatever comic book company. It was funny because my wife likes to do the thumbnails, and she was like, "What is a retcon?" It is like a comic book specific term, but now it's turning up in other things too.
Well, with movies redoing stuff and changing things, I imagine it shows up there.
Yeah. It's such a book nerd.
It's not the worst thing. It depends what it is.
When we get into it properly, I'll talk about my philosophy of retcons.
Okay, that'll be good.
So any other news that you want? Oh yeah, so Marcus is drawing I Love a Mystery, so that's what he submitted.
Well, I don't want to show you anything else because then because then we can't send you any more finished pages for a couple of weeks anyway.
No, it's fine. You could show the roughs.
I'm working on page 2. See,
you know what I mean? Like I don't want you to do 20 pages. Like, oh man, we got to change all of this. You know what I mean? So yeah, show the roughs. Other good news.
Panel was on a different spot. So this is the second page. I think I've sent them to you, so I don't know.
Send them again. I don't remember.
I know. I'll send it. Yeah, no, I know. I send them, and then you have so many people sending work. I forget. I go, he forgot. But I realize everybody sent you work at the same time. You have a lot of stuff going on.
So
yeah, I'll send it. You've liked it. You've liked it before. He's fighting the South Buscema thugs. He's flipping over. He's kicking like in a Ditko-ish way. You know, this is not. These other pages don't have as much background. If you notice when I did it, you'll notice in the second page they have like bricks, but I indicate the bricks. I'm not drawing every brick, just so you know. Not.
Yeah.
That's just not my style. Like that's other people's style.
Ditko.
Yeah, but there are bricks. I want people to know, but it's like 3 bricks, 3 books, like they used to do in the past. Like, oh, it's a brick wall, and they didn't draw every single brick because it wasn't needed to be drawn.
Creators Outlet says, "Hail nerds, how you doing, Creators Outlet? Good to see." I guess YouTube is settling on the after ads, the last name, so it just drives me nuts. I wish I had the first name. Storebase, how you doing? I think you're new. A couple of people commented on old videos today, like I just discovered you. Yeah, so. Thanks to all those people. Zach Tan with the drive-by blessing. How you doing? How you doing, Zach Tan?
Zach Tan's always here.
Yeah, hello. Thanks for having us. Yeah, everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome. It's a comic book nerd show.
I listen to you on Sundays, and we go through the page. You go through the pages, and they go, "Well, Byrne didn't put a background in here," and that's what they're supposed to do. So some of the fight scenes will have less backgrounds, like you talk about, because you concentrate on the character.
Right, like
there's too many, and I can't handle all the backgrounds anyway.
Well, Byrne would have, or most comic book artists would have an establishing shot. You know,
that's right.
So you know where they are. They're fighting in arcades or whatever. Giant pinball machine, and then the third panel is just blue. But we know it because the brain fills in the details.
I think that's a mistake in some indie comics. Generally, I mean, indie comics, I mean, like guys like my level, is that they want to put in so much background and there's so much detail that you're losing the characters in the front. Like you have to think about foreground, middle ground, background. And a lot of it's characters, then you don't need as much if you know where they're going to be. And it's a feeling. It's not something you always think about. Oh, I need a background here. I need a background here.
Well, the problem is most indie comics, they come out when they come out. So if the artist can spend as much time as they want on each panel, kind of thing.
And I don't mean the big guys. I meant just everybody. It wasn't specific.
Sometimes you don't. Renzo sent it a page for Patriarch #1, and right in the center, it was just Patriarch punching the bad guy, and there was no background.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so I missed Oscar. Could you just color this panel red? And Oscar was like, oh yeah, like the old Marvel used to do. And then 2 days later, Renzo said, oh John, I sent the wrong page. This is the finished page, and there was background in it. You know what I mean? But it was just funny that
you could do that. That's the Stan Goldberg way. He's the one who did all those backgrounds like that. The Archie comic artist. He colored most of Marvel stuff up until 1968, almost all of it. So all those hot highlights. The guy's yellow and he's in the foreground. The backgrounds, these shock colors and stuff. That was him, and he doesn't get enough credit for giving Marvel a unique look, Oh,
so Stormbase, you're the one who commented today. Thank you. Good to. I forget which video it was, but thank you for commenting. And I'm still small enough that I respond to your comments. If I didn't respond to your comment, that means I didn't see it yet. It slipped through the cracks.
You're not big like Tony. Tony's big.
I can't. I like to respond to everybody because it's supposed to be a dialogue.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean,
How you doing, Tony? How's everything?
Yeah, I'm posting the Matt Baker covers, non-romance ones.
Marcus, I just said, Tony, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. How's everyone else doing over there? Good?
Yeah. What's the weather over there in Albuquerque?
Fair. A little cold, little nippy, but fair. Quite good. How's it over there?
It's getting warm. It's getting warm. Still piles of snow on the ground, but they're melting. Yeah. Right.
It's 80 here.
Oh wow, we got a bunch of people watching, so I guess there's enough people to begin. So, Marcus, you're the encyclopedia of comics more than I am. Do you want to explain what a continuity, what a retcon is?
A retcon can be different things, but generally it's when you go in the past and you change, say, the origin of the character. Like if you were going to past, say, Batman's origin, we know it's a simple, like 3-page origin. that they've now, and when you read a book and it's 25 pages, more than likely they're adding that. And if all of a sudden there's Martha Wayne and Thomas Wayne, and suddenly Bruce Wayne has a little sister, that would be a retcon. Why does she have a little sister all of a sudden after like 35 years? And if like the bat doesn't just fly in and smash the windows, but fly in and tries to claw Bruce Wayne's eyes out, and then he became a bat, that would be a retcon. Like these are sometimes it's something small and sometimes it's really good. You're
not explaining. A retcon is when they change what happened in the story in the past.
Right. I was just giving examples. They change it particularly in the past.
So a retcon is, X happened, and then later on we say Y happened. That's a bad. But like he says, like, Batman's origin is the Batfly. His parents were killed, and then all of a sudden they say no, they weren't killed. They were in a coma, and now they're all. That would be a retcon. It's been established. They were buried. We know the facts, and now we have to pretend that we don't know the facts. And
like retcon.
I mean, a retcon. There's retcons where they just change it, and then there's like the Beyonder shows up, waves his hand, and change it, and we have to accept it. But there's also filling in details. Filling in details is not a retcon. Like when they said Peter Parker's parents were SHIELD agents and they were away on the mission, that wasn't really a retcon because nowhere did they say they died or anything like that. But
no, they didn't say. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. But they don't. If a retcon, it's usually called a retcon when it's bad. When it's good, everybody goes, "Oh, that's really great."
Yeah, well, a retcon stands for retroactive continuity. So we're going backwards and changing the continuity. So like
Captain America has more than a few retcons, for example.
Right. Like a retcon that we all kind of just accept as needed is when Tony Stark, he was in the Vietnam War when he was in the cave. And now when we tell that story, he was just in a war. Like we don't want him tied to Vietnam because that means he has to be 130 years old. You know what I mean? So we kind of accept it as a necessary change.
Fantastic Four thing, right? So Reed and Ben Grimm were always when they came out, they were World War because it was 1961. World War II wasn't that long ago, and they were World War II vets. And throughout the 60s, nobody thought about they were World War II vets. And then they stopped mentioning it that they were vets. And then Byrne decided that they were Vietnam. Was it Byrne? 80s Vietnam vets. And then they became Gulf War vets, and now I don't know what they do with them because I don't read it.
Right.
And it's like the Byrne thing is he goes back every 7 years. But when you tie these characters to a specific time, then it causes a problem later, like tying it to the current president, any current president, So Superman and JFK, that's a problem.
So people in the chat, first off, thank you people in the chat. It's a lot of, otherwise it's just me and Marcus and Tony talking to each other. But did we make it clear? So a retcon is when we, like, I think another famous retcon, if this is a retcon, is Donald Blake was just a guy. And then later on, they changed him to he always was Thor. That's
right. He was just there. He wasn't even a person. He was Thor, and he was Thor being punished.
So I always wondered, like, wouldn't it be this is an aside that I just thought of, wouldn't it be an interesting story of like a patient of Donald Blake is like, where is he? He's always going to, and then they just get curious, and then they go get his college records and like, he didn't exist before medical school. Or did Odin just go off with the medical, like, where did he go to medical school? You know what I mean? But anyway,
Odin just made him. Odin just had him show up, right? That was the idea. And that's that famous.
Tony
wants to say something.
I was going to say a retcon I never liked was the retcon that Freddie Freeman, Captain Marvel Jr., was the brother of God. What was that character's name, Marcus? It escaped me.
Kid Eternity.
Kid Eternity. Thank you. Just because they both had the same last name, Freeman, despite the fact that one was owned by Quality, one was owned by Fawcett.
Well, here's a retcon that they did that's similar. It's like the Sandman and Harry and Norman Osborn related because Ditko gave him the same hairstyle, that wacky hairstyle that Ditko used to use in a lot of things. Yeah, it didn't stick because it's stupid, but they did. Somebody tried that. I don't know if it was Byrne. I think it was Byrne because Byrne was kind of like things had to make sense to him, and they had that unique hairstyle. Like I don't know who has it. You can kind of go back to the '60s to see people have that, but not even that many back then. But Ditko used it a lot, like in his other Charlton and stuff.
Yeah, that hairstyle. I think it has to do with like pomade or something like that. Oh, like the way they.
It would have, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So a retcon is, we have an established story, and then another writer just changes the backstory to do it. And sometimes we just go along with it. Sometimes we understand it's needed. Like I think having the Fantastic Four go to the moon first, before the Apollo mission, that dates them. That what I mean. So we play along with it. But there's some retcons that are just changes too much. And of course, I think this will start with the greatest, not the greatest, the most known and the most disliked thing. I'm saying it wrong. Okay, so let's start with things that I would retcon if I was in charge. If I had a time machine and I could go back in comics, one more day would never have happened. You know what I mean?
Other people were talking about that, not just you.
Right. Or what would happen is it does happen, but the relationship between Peter Parker, or I think the best way to end it is Aunt May finds out about it. Like somehow she finds out, and she's just like, I'm a 90-year-old woman. You're going to get married. You're going to have kids. Like my time is done. And then she breaks the spell, and then it snaps back to normal, and Aunt May dies. That's the way I would undo one. You know what I mean? Does anybody in the chat like One More Day? I know Chuck Dixon says we want the illusion of change. Like we really don't want the characters to age because nobody wants 112-year-old Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
But every once in a while we have to have a mouse. Peter Parker graduated from high school. Gwen Stacy died. Bucky died. Bucky became the Winter Soldier. You know what I mean? There are little milestones that show you that there is some sort of change to also make comics dramatic, because if nothing ever changes, then it's not fun. But when we do have a change, this is like Batman. You don't just kill off Alfred. Like you got to think, how does this affect the character for the long time? And if you do kill off Alfred, you got to be done with it. Like I never, ever, ever believed for a second that Superman was going to die in the death of Superman. That was the first time I was upset with comics. I thought it was a cheap gimmick. Was killing Robin with the dial number thing. I thought that was a cheap gimmick. But the Superman, it was just like, don't insult my intelligence. They're not killing Superman. But anyway, I think. Does anybody like One More Day? So that's what we're talking.
I don't like One More Day.
We're going to go back in time and change stories.
Well, in One More Day's whole idea of One More Day was just as soon as they married off Peter and Mary Jane, which they did that because of the comics, because Stan Lee wanted to marry them off. So the comic books had to follow the newspaper strip, and then they got married at Shea Stadium, like in real life.
Yeah.
And as soon as they did it, they regretted it because none of those guys writing were married. None of them understood marriage. They thought it aged Peter out so fast, but they didn't want to divorce him because they didn't want to have a divorced hero. Now we're in 2026 and maybe not as many people care, but in 1986 and 1996, they didn't want Spider-Man to be divorced.
But he didn't have to be divorced. Why can't Peter Parker be happily married?
Well, because they didn't want him. They thought it aged the character out. I don't disagree with you, but this is what they said. That's what started the whole clone thing. They wanted to replace Peter with a new Peter so he wouldn't be married.
It just, to me, it just shows there's nothing wrong with
They didn't want Peter married.
I know.
I mean, they didn't care for Spider-Girl. Like alternate Peter could be married. And so that whole the Clone Wars that they did that was okay for the first 6 months and then went for 2 years. And they kept the other clone and this clone and his clone. They used that story from issue 149 150 to try to introduce a new Peter that would have been Ben Reilly, and that didn't stick. And then Joe Quesada just did it. He did One More Day, partially because he was getting divorced. It's like Peter David killed off Betty Ross because he was angry at his first wife.
Is Betty Ross still dead? Yeah.
No, they brought her back. She was in. I last Hulk stuff I read was Immortal Hulk, and she was back. They were all monsters in Immortal Hulk. It's a monster.
That just drives me nuts, though. The how people come back from the dead, like not like, oh, we thought they were dead, like literally come back from the dead. It devalues the storytelling, you know. But
these other writers want to write those characters. Well, I don't know, Betty.
That's why the editorial staff has to be like, we can't do this. Put your foot down.
Sure.
You know,
you're asking that
editorial staff now. I mean, we used to have career guys,
but even those guys brought the characters back.
But now, like, I couldn't even, who's editing now? Are they around for a long time? I don't even know.
Even those guys bring the characters back, though. Like they all do it. They all want the characters back. The first time I remember a character dying was a reprint that I read in DC Super Spectacular. They killed off Alfred, and that was and they had what's that other woman? The woman take his place, and they killed him off. He was the outsider.
Aunt Harriet.
Yeah, you might remember that, right, Tony?
Aunt Harriet. Yeah, they replaced her.
Harriet, and that was so unpopular. They had to find a way to bring him back, and they brought him back.
That was part of the Wortham thing. It's too gay to have three dudes living in the same room.
This was like 1964, 65, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was Julia Schwartz. So.
Mm-hmm.
Was that before the TV show? So was Aunt Harriet?
It was right before. Yeah, it was a new look Batman, but it was before the show. Yeah, they reprinted them. I don't know. They reprinted them in these Super Spectaculars when I was a kid, and I used to read them. And the Outsider was like this super powered kind of Batman couldn't beat. It was really frustrating.
The 66 show is the reason why they brought Alfred back, because we have to bring him back, and it was very convoluted how they did it. I forgot who's
can't even explain. I don't remember it. I'd have to look.
It's weird.
But that's like the things that they do.
StreamYard is acting up. I can't bring up comments.
Oh, that's wonderful. I see them here. I see some of them.
Like, is this showing on the screen right now?
It's showing on my StreamYard. Let me see if it's on YouTube. I have my phone here.
But anyway, so if
and
John's gone.
Well, in that case, so Tony, what do you think of what retcons do you like or dislike? Or it's such an amorphous term to me. It's hard for me to explain it. Like John made.
The biggest retcon people would know would be the Star Wars retcon. Originally, Darth Vader was going to be the killer of Anakin Skywalker, and Luke Skywalker was not related to Princess Leia. And then all of a sudden, everyone's related, I'm
not sure if that was the worst one because it was that great shock.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of tied everything together. I mean, now it's bad because they've ruined Star Wars. But the first three movies, it kind of sort of worked. But it didn't work because my kids watched the prequels. And they love the prequels, by the way, because kids are kids. Mm-hmm. And little Luke looked a little like my son, so he identified with young Luke. But then to have Anakin just kill a whole bunch of a whole students like that. They did some brutal stuff that they should have never done. Forget what's going on now. That's even worse.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on.
We were just discussing. He was discussing his retcon that he remembers Tony. It involved Star Wars and Darth Vader.
Oh yeah, Darth Vader. I'll say this: when you I was watching YouTube of the original Star Wars commercials, and it said adventure, excitement, romance, and they would show Luke and and Leia, swinging and kissing and stuff. There's no way that they were brother and sister.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's better that they were, but they should have been from the beginning then.
Right. And
I don't have a problem with them being brother and sister.
So here's a retcon that I would make, since we're talking about Star Wars. Okay, now we got the sequels. The first movie, Anakin's a little annoying kid. Okay, he's a little kid. I don't want to be mean. He's a little kid, and he sees Padme or what, Amidala or whatever, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is closer in age to Padme, and Obi-Wan, what's his name? Ewan Gregor's a good-looking guy. Amidala's a good-looking girl. They're both youngish. They never really said either's name. And then the second movie comes out, and Amidala is all happy. Oh, I'm going to see my friend. Would she be excited to see Anakin? She's excited to see Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then Anakin just comes along because he's the apprentice. They go. She's wearing the bustier and the leather outfit and everything like that. And Anakin's, and then that slug alien comes out. And who jumps out the window? Obi-Wan immediately. Boom. And then Anakin's like, what's going on? And then in the third movie, he says, "You betrayed me," to Obi-Wan. Anakin, how did he betray him? The retcon that I would make is that Obi-Wan and Amidala have been together, and they kept from him because he liked him. But that's the retcon I make. And then Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, when I watched that with my kids,
Marcus, please.
Sorry.
And then it would be Luke Skywalker is Obi-Wan's kid. Who goes and looks at his son for the next 30 years on the planet? You know what I mean? That's the retcon that I would make. Then it makes sense that he got betrayed. Then it makes sense that that Anakin goes to the dark side because he lusted after this girl for his whole life, and his best friend is sneaking around with her. It would make the story interesting, at least. That's the retcon that I would make.
Doesn't it make her way older than Luke, the young boy as well? Like, that's kind of like, when I saw that, like, all of a sudden he's the same age and they're dating. Well, she must have been like 30 and he's like 17.
I know. I mean,
that was just kind of old timing. Was kind of weird. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it just came into my head.
Right, it doesn't make sense. Ewan McGregor is still the same age because that's the way the casting is, and then Obi-Wan is an old man, and I will say, well, there's two suns with a lot of radiation on Tatooine. You know what I mean? That's Luke. 5 more years and Luke would have been an old man. Because look at Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen. They went from
that's right.
So that, to me, that would be explained by the atmosphere and the radiation of the twin suns. Tony?
Right.
My retcon, and this is going to be a little spicy. I hope it doesn't piss too many people off. I would retcon the Crisis on Infinite Earths. All of it. Everything. Outside of the art, outside of the beautiful George Perez art, that destroyed continuity of the JSA, of Superboy, Superman, the Legion of Superheroes. Hawkman has never recovered from that. It just screwed everything up. Essentially, what editorial and Marv Wolfman tried to do was to fit a gallon of continuity, which was about 60 plus years at the time, into a shot glass full of a universe. Didn't work. It screwed everything up, in my opinion. And I would have completely retconned. I like the fact that all the Fawcett characters are on Earth Fawcett. All the Quality characters are on Earth Quality. All the the Golden Age people are on Earth 2. I like that. A place for everyone. Because think about it, guys. In a world where you have Superman, Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Captain Marvel becomes redundant. He's superfluous. In the too many redundancies there. In a world with the Green Lantern Corps, you don't need Alan Scott. In a world with Barry Allen, you don't need Jay Garrick. It's sticking everything together. It just doesn't work. It never worked. It screwed it up. Plus, it set forth a precedent that DC Comics has done, where they seem to reboot every few years. Every few years, they're just rebooting and rebooting. And when you reboot too much, nothing matters. Everything, like, why am I going to invest myself in your shit, sorry, in your stuff, if you just keep pulling the frigging plug every few years and then replugging it back in again? It sucked. And Marvel never did that, to their credit. And I have to give them credit for not being constantly rebooting, every few years. So yeah, that's what I would do. I would just completely erase the Crisis on Infinite Earths.
I got two things.
Okay.
First,
I think that's fair.
Stormbase wants to know if you can join. This is an open invite, so anybody's welcome. That's what it's all about. It's supposed to be a bunch of goofballs hanging out in a comic book shop saying Daredevil could beat up Galactus. You know what I mean? So, but the thing is, you got to have a camera because it's a friendly conversation.
I have
So that's the thing. The other thing is, Marcus, I 100% agree with you. I love the Crisis on Infinite Earth. It got me into DC.
No, me too.
But it's not so much the Crisis on Infinite Earth. I thought the story worked as best as it can. It's the aftermath. DC should have canceled all their comics, started over with number ones of everything, and then had some sort of guideline and didn't rehash all the old stories. All those wonderful stories happened. They were in the past, whatever. Now we're going forward. Start with, and they couldn't just have some comics continuing the same numbering system, some comics starting over at one. They needed to work it out. They didn't do that. Yep. But I do agree. I think, and the odd thing is, it worked as far as getting readers. The purpose of Crisis on Infinite Earth was to streamline and get readers. I think
he's roboting.
I don't know. Am I here? It worked in the got more readers, but it destroyed the continuity. It absolutely destroyed the continuity. Like characters.
Well, I think they had trouble with the continuity because they never really had continuity for like 60 years up to that point. And then one of the problems, one of the biggest problems of Crisis that you're talking about afterwards is because Byrne and Perez did not reboot Wonder Woman, Superman, and Wonder Woman were not rebooted to a year or two after because they're waiting for Byrne and Perez to do it. Whereas like Flash, right away, new Flash, new everything, new number one. And they didn't do that with those. They did it with Superman, but it's too late. They didn't do it right after Crisis. That was all should have happened at the same time. It didn't, and may cause a confusion.
Right. Plan better. And then what Tony also said is, now that DC reboots all the time, I don't care.
Right.
It's like, oh, we're gonna see Spider-Man's new origin with the new actor and everything. I don't care. But first, let's welcome Matt. Matt, are you?
Hey. Yeah. Can you hear me okay? Everything?
Yeah.
Good?
Sounds good. Turn down your mic just a little bit.
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry about that, man. I have never done any kind of streaming before, so
that's fine.
That's
what the show is, to talk to people.
Sorry about that, brother. But thank you so much.
That's cool.
Yo.
Understand the concept. If you so either I guess we're expanding it. Either a retcon that you didn't like, or what would you retcon? And we all agreed that One More Day is the most hated. We would change that. Tony says he would get rid of Crisis on Infinite. Oh, one last thought before I forget. They wanted to make it simpler because they thought people wouldn't understand this Earth and that Earth and this. Nowadays, everybody and their grandmother understands the concept of multiple Earths. You know what I mean? So right now, it's not a hard concept. Guys at work understand. Oh, this universe is this and this universe is that. So it's kind of funny. Marcus,
I'm so sorry, John. Y'all go ahead and talk amongst yourself. I want to make sure I'm not too loud, and I'm having a little.
No, you're fine. You're fine now. So what would you do, Tony? Mark, Matt? Jeez,
well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I just recently discovered the channel. It's a great channel.
Thank you.
It's very fun to watch. What we were just talking about here, I actually want to ask Tony something. And all of you, actually, this may be a wild theory, but I've always wondered this. So back in the day, okay, I had heard that George Lucas, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but that George Lucas had all of the prequels written before episode 4, 5, and 6. Have y'all ever heard this?
Mm-hmm.
I never heard that, but I will say,
so, Tony, you've heard this, right?
Yeah.
It's like, does that even seem remotely plausible to you,
No.
considering how it went? You know,
They were completely. He kept rewriting things. He'd do a thing and then he'd rewrite it, and he'd do a thing. It started off as Luke Starkiller. He didn't like the name, so he changed it to Luke Skywalker, and then he had the Clone Wars written in a way, and then he didn't like that, so he rewrote it to be another thing. He was constantly revising. That's why when I was talking to Marcus earlier, Leia started off as a girlfriend, potential love interest, and then she turned into his sister. And then originally Darth Vader was an evil apprentice that killed Anakin Skywalker. Then it was rewritten to where he was Anakin Skywalker. So he really played fast and loose with his own stuff. Really.
plus, if you get the DVDs to the sequels, you can actually see George Lucas going, I'm going to go into my room and write these movies now.
right?
Why would he say that? If they were already
exactly.
written 20, 30 years ago.
Tony, I mean, you bring up like that. That's opened up a whole nother can of worms, because I don't know if you're a gamer or anything like that, but obviously, are you familiar with The Force Unleashed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Starkiller, Galen Merrick, that whole thing, and that whole thing has been sort of retconned in a way. Not that the extent the EU, Disney obviously has no interest in the EU, and they made that very clear. But that's interesting as well. So again, it's like I always got the inclination that George Lucas actually didn't make any of this stuff before, and it just kind of came after. And funny enough, like I was working in a movie theater at the time when The Phantom Menace came out. I actually dressed up as Darth Vader to greet people. And it was a whole thing. That's a whole nother story. We don't have to talk about that. But so that's just something that I've always wondered about. Is like,
well, if you wanted
retconned, or did George Lucas
to read the story,
actually no? Sorry, I apologize.
If you ever wanted to read the story, Dark Horse did he adapted the original version, like what the 0.0 of A New Hope, with the character designs, the original character designs that Ralph McQuarrie did, where 3PO looks like a male Maria from Metropolis, and Darth Vader's got that really long snout, and they got the conical shaped lightsabers. You could read the story that he was originally going to do it, so it's out there. I
have a few of those issues that I just got here and there, and forgive my ignorance because I haven't read them, but it seems to be getting to a point to where Luke, forgive me, I forget the series that it was going for. They're very good art and cool covers, but where Luke was almost becoming this whole concept of the gray Jedi before that actually existed, before the fans talked about that. Is that where it was going? Dark Horse?
And then Return of the Jedi was Empire Strikes Back, I think. It was going to be with Luke was going to be corrupted. That was going to be, so they wanted to take it down a dark road, but then Gary Kurtz, the producer, George Lucas's friend, said, "Nah, man, we got to sell toys. We got to sell toys here. You can't do that." So that's why it was still Dark Empire, but it's not as dark as it could have been before. I would have loved to have seen that too, but they kind of did that with Dark Empire, which I did you ever read that? The Star Wars Dark Empire?
I read parts of it. It seemed like a cool concept, but self-admittedly, I was never the hugest Star Wars fan, and it's not because I don't like. Obviously, I love the original trilogy and all that, but I'm more of a street level character kind of thing, or street level. I'm into street level characters. I mean, obviously, and Frank Castle, right? What do y'all think about that, John and Marcus? Like, in terms of if Luke was to go down that path and become the balance between, the light and the dark, is that something y'all could have seen happening?
I think that's where it was going all along. I mean, think about it logically. Okay, so the prequels happened first. So you watch the prequels first. They're all talking about this guy's going to bring balance to the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that means the Force is unbalanced. Now they go to Coruscant. All the ships are shiny. Everybody's happy. Everything's paradise. So the balance is there's too much good. The balance is they're going to restore evil, and the Jedi, they like it good. That's my take. So they're like, this guy's going to bring balance. The only one who gets excited by this is Mace Windu. Mace Windu has a purple lightsaber. Everybody else has a primary color. He's got a secondary that's almost red. So to me, Mace Windu is like the gray Jedi. He's excited about, we're going to bring balance. Or maybe he just doesn't care about good or evil. He just cares about balance.
He's like one step away,
Right, he's one step away. And then Luke is born. Yoda doesn't want to trade him because Yoda knows this is the guy that's going to restore evil. You know what I mean? And then
absolutely. I've always kind of clandestinely thought of it that way as well, like exactly what you just explained, but I don't have enough cred in the Star Wars space to
look at Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi, Vader is saying, or the Emperor's, let go of your feelings. Let go of your feelings.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Luke beats the crap out of Vader. That's when he turned. He became evil. Now, just because you're evil doesn't mean he was enraged. His family was in danger. He killed a guy that was out of it. And then he threw the Emperor down, or Vader threw the Emperor. He's wearing black. He's got the robot hands. He saw it. This was going to be the new. Now he's evil. To me, then the sequels would have been Luke and Leia get married. They have 2 kids. Think about it.
Luke and Leia.
I mean, Han and Leia. They have 2 kids. This is my theory, and one of them is good, one of them is evil. You know what I mean? And they are the balance. The Darth Vader spent half his life good, half his life evil. Luke was half his life good, half his life is evil.
Now but in opposite ways, right? In opposite ways.
And now there's balance, but balance is not necessarily when everything's overly good. Like he's going to bring balance. We thought there was evil. No, through Vader, we had the Republic became an empire. Everything is being restored. That's what I thought. But they wussed out. They should have finished. I got no problem with Rey. You want to have a story with Rey, but they should have finished the story with Luke. Have those 3 movies. What's her name? Rey is still young and hot. She could still play that character. And they should. Carrie Fisher's dead. Han Solo might as well be dead. Well, they killed off. And then Luke. If he could project himself across the galaxy, why did he still die? Why didn't he show up in person and fight? Everything about that movie was stupid.
Dude. Well, I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms. And again,
then
I don't even have the right to speed on this, but I will say this about like the point that you just made. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was going to say, and the last Star Wars retcon that I would make is Chewbacca just goes, oh, and of course Rey can understand him. And what do they say? He said he's dropping us off, but the Millennium Falcon is his. He just met me. So to me, that just shows that
reverting the capacitors is not good enough to have ownership on the Millennium Falcon, or whatever she did.
Right. So to me, Chewbacca's a slave. Chewbacca was Han Solo's slave. Yeah, and then when he died, ownership transferred to he didn't get a medal, he didn't do anything, and then Han dies and the slave goes to Rey of all people. And anyway, that's my feelings of Star Wars.
Well, the Force, man, the whole thing with the Force, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I think that you articulated in a good way is that the Force is impartial, right? It's not about like evil or good. It's just the Force. And so the whole focus on the Sith and the Jedi and that whole thing that just kept coming about, seemed to me to diminish the entire concept of like the Force in general. Like what is it about? How is it used? How is it, all that kind of stuff. But again, that's a whole nother Star Wars thing, and I'm not qualified to speak on it. But it's just you're raising questions in my mind that I've had since I was a little kid.
The movie's called Star Wars, and George Lucas says it's World War II in space. Well, the war is over. The premise is the premise is self-limited. When the Empire got defeated, when the war was over, there's no more story. Let's make a World War II movie, but it's set in 1968. It makes no sense, So if they wanted to make a sequel, they should have followed like what happened with Alexander the Great. Carrie Fisher is now the head of this new recreated republic. Think about what happened in ancient Greece. Everybody, you pay to us, and we'll build up an army, and then like other Greek states, like, why are we paying for you? They start rebelling. We find out that there's another empire out there. They could have done so, but instead they just reset everything. Obi-Wan Kenobi died for nothing. They're fighting the Empire again. They build another Death Star again. It's Star Wars. I don't know why there's even fans anymore. I saw the first sequel movie. I saw the second sequel, and I said, I'm done. They're just rehashing everything. It's I don't care anymore. They're fighting the same thing that I saw when I was 7. They're doing the same things that so I don't know. To me, there's only 2.5 Star Wars movies.
Yeah. I hear you.
Wait, hold on. Tony's talking. Tony.
I apologize. I'm a newbie here, and y'all go ahead. I apologize.
You got to watch the screen when you see Tony lift his hand.
Yeah.
His microphone is weird.
Another retcon I would have done, everything that happened to the Punisher over the last 5 years would be completely thrown away. They've completely destroyed that character. I don't even think you can reboot him at this point. Everything they've successfully taken him apart and destroyed him. I would have and aside from that, everything that Tom King has written, everything that Tom King has written, I would just cast into the fire, in my opinion.
I am of the opinion that Tom King is still working for the CIA. And the CIA hasn't done anything good as far as I'm concerned. And he's just, okay, now we're going to demoralize comic book. I mean, look at this new Lanterns movie. You took the most insane, imaginative, abstract, crazy, cosmic superhero, and it's 2 miserable cops walking down the street. You know what I mean? Like, they could have done that with The Question. They could have done that with so many other characters, but no. It's Tom King. Let's demoralize it. Marcus, your microphone's off.
Thanks. Tom King's mother is high up in Warner Brothers. Doesn't have a whole lot to do with his. That has been said that his mom apparently is like an executive, and that's why he got all these jobs. It's not 100%, but that's what I've heard. It's not just the CIA.
That would explain all the mommy wives in all of his story.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Wives. He had that one big story that was okay, I guess. I didn't read it. And then he's turned that into like, we can't get rid of him.
I just can't. I just find him to be miserable. He's joyless.
Yeah, he's bad.
And my retcon that I would do, I talk about it as many times as I can. There's no Phoenix Force. Jean Grey, her name is Phoenix. When your superhero name is Phoenix, one of your powers is you come back from the dead. You know what I mean? Like if your name is Basilisk, you get to turn people into stone. If your name is Medusa, you get to turn people into stone. If your name is Hydra, you get to regenerate. But her name is Phoenix. So one of her powers is she comes back from the dead. And I think it would just be such a great drama that after the Phoenix cycle, she kills herself, she ashes on the moon. Somebody goes to the moon, they have a watch store, they find Jean Grey wandering around, this savage girl with no memories. Oh my God, Jean Grey's here. Phoenix, she restored herself. They bring her back down to Earth. She starts to learn everything slowly. Once in a while, her memories come back. And then after a couple of years, we start to realize she's turning into Dark Phoenix again. just like a phoenix. She's reborn. She gets powerful. She explodes, and then they start to realize this is going to happen forever. Like, this is our friend. What do? Like, it's like they got to manage the hurricane. They got to manage the storm. I think that's so much better than Phoenix Force. She's absolved of all of her guilt, and Cyclops can now become the Phoenix, and Dazzler can now become the Phoenix. It's so stupid. I don't know. I just
that wasn't. I don't think that was really the point that when they made the Phoenix that ended up to be that when Claremont and Byrne made and
they got rid of her.
Made the Phoenix. I don't think that they didn't that was whole brought back thing. That wasn't their thing. If they really wanted to keep her going and mute her powers,
right?
And Shooter didn't let her do it, so she got killed, and they had to redo the whole thing. Thank God they were fast. But it's all that they wanted to bring her back for X Factor, and it's just bad. I mean, the creators that created that comic are good creators, but it was bad. I think it was created by Kurt Busiek to bring her back.
The other retcon, of course,
that way. Nobody's going to be smart about it,
I would have, of course, Cyclops all of a sudden finding out that he's either susceptible to telepaths or damaged by telepaths. That's a retcon that I would put in.
Damaged by telepaths.
He's not.
Hell Hydra.
Yeah, some retcon that he's not. That he's not. He didn't leave his wife, for God's sake. However you do it, whether it's that way or another way, that he's not like this terrible human being. That he's he's supposed to be the Captain America of the X-Men. So, what is another retcon? Well, some retcons are good. The Bucky retcon turned out to be good, at least in the comics. So you don't have to, as the movies go along, everything gets worse and worse. But when Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting brought back Bucky, I didn't think that was ever able to be done. And to do it the way they did was actually good and created a character that's good. Well, nobody's used at Marvel's any good, but I meant generally, and it was complicated, but they did it. And John, so we can keep talking about that. Tony, you have anything else to add since you're always muted?
Well, I like the retcon of that they did for Dr. Fate in the 70s by introducing the concept of the Lords of Order and the Lords of Chaos.
I like that. I thought
that was a good retcon. I would retcon pretty much, and this might be a spicy take here, but every character that has been made gay that was originally.
Oh, wow, that's not a spicy take. I think we all would go for that.
Back to factory settings. I would retcon everything that they did to Harley Quinn and just bring her back to what she used to be, which was the Joker's mom. I was just the
original. Mm-hmm. But even Paul Dini got in with that one. The interesting thing about that is I go to comic conventions a lot. And when Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Conner at a comic convention, the line for them is huge because of Harley Quinn, because of Amanda's work on Harley Quinn. And you could argue, now I didn't read all those Harley Quinns, but I do know the time, and they're the ones who made her bisexual.
Yeah, but did they do that under the?
That's the irony of it. But the line from Amanda Conner is huge. Like, they're not really being blamed. Like, anybody gets mad at blames DC, but they don't blame those two creators, which I find kind of ironic.
Yeah, I mean, the writers is definitely a factor in that kind. For example, like the Tim Drake thing. So to me, Tim Drake has always been my favorite Robin, and no disrespect to Dick Grayson, because I liked him as Nightwing, but they retire Tim Drake for that one reason, right? Has nothing to do with his past, has nothing to do with anything. They could have written it in to where there was a specific reason, but they were just like, no, screw it. We're just going to be like, you know what? We retcon this character, and now we don't know where to go with it, so we're just going to take him out of continuity forever. And that really irritated me because, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Chuck Dixon, and the Chuck Dixon miniseries on Robin is what got me into Robin as the sidekick, because of that Tim Drake run. So yeah, that was just that's another one. It's like it almost seems like at this point that I want to retcon their retcons, and as Tony mentioned earlier, and again, I don't want to take up anyone's time, and if somebody's trying to come in, you can kick me out.
No,
But
you're
good.
you're fine. Don't worry about that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys so much. And again, I'm a new fan. Like I've been talking to you, John, on the YouTube comments and stuff. I just recently found your channel because of the Chuck Dixon interview.
Let me just say one thing. Dave Brink, Genuine Comics, he's launching his I forget, is it a Kickstarter crowdfunder tomorrow? He asked if he could launch on my channel, and I'm working overtime tomorrow, so I can't. So Dave, if you want to come in here and do like a preview for your launch for tomorrow and let everybody know, I absolutely would love it, and here's the link for anybody to come in. But yeah, I just wanted to give Dave, check out his comics. He's got Safeguard and the Perfect 10 series.
Absolutely, and if Dave needs to come in, you just go ahead and let me know. I'll dip out so so you guys can have an extra space. No problem at all. Again, I appreciate you. But Tony had mentioned Frank Castle, which Frank Castle is my favorite character of all time. So in terms of like retconning a retcon, and this may be something that John, you may disagree with it, and that is 100% fine. I get it. Frank Castle has been, in my opinion, retconned like so many times it's ridiculous, because, and it's very simple. It's not something like super deep, but what happens with him, and this happened in the Ennis run, and I respect Garth Ennis. I think he's an extremely talented writer, but there was a reason for me that I didn't like his run so much. Not because of his writing or anything, but because of this one thing. And it is, if you change Frank's origin at all, it fundamentally changes the character. And what I mean by that is that whether it's the Ennis run with the Bourne story, or whether it's any of the movies or anything like that, when you make it to where like Frank is, an FBI agent, or just a crazed guy in the Vietnam War that likes to murder people, or if you make him a cop, or if you make him like in the Netflix series, if you made it, he was a Marine sniper that didn't go along with some conspiracy. What happens is, whether it's small or big, you make it inadvertently Frank's fault that his family died. So it becomes basically like an 80s revenge story, right? But that changes the character fundamentally, because Frank's war is not on like this one thing that happened. It's not a basic revenge. His war is on crime. That's why he can't stop. And the reason that is because when his family got killed in Central Park, it wasn't specific people that had it out for Frank that killed his family. What it was is crime itself killed his family. They walked upon a crime. Exactly, right? So there's no end, in terms of his war. He's a soldier, right? And that's
why I didn't like in the Batman movie that it was Joker that killed Batman's parents.
I 100% agree with that. You talk about the 89 film?
Because he gets Joker at the end, so that's it.
Exactly.
It's over.
And it's, well, I mean, he didn't just let him die, he killed him, and he killed a bunch of other people in that movie too. Even as a kid, I saw that in 89. I spent my birthday money to take the family to see that movie because I was so hyped up about it. Even after all the Mr. Mom stuff and everything, which I was a little worried about at first, but and I didn't even know who Tim Burton was. I was like 10 years old at the time. But it was a well shot movie. It was dark, brought Batman definitely different than the 66 stuff. But I even remember as a kid in the theater watching that, and I was like, did he just bomb all those guys?
Yeah.
Did he just kill all those guys?
Is he wearing armor? That's not Batman.
Yeah, it was so different. But so that would be again, going back to Frank Castle, that would be my.
Well, Frank Castle got red. Remember, there was the Angel Frank Castle.
Yeah, but he had already died at that point. So
right, he already died, and then Frank Castle comes back to life, and now he's the Angel. And then, if you remember that, the way Garth Ennis retconned that was great. He just never referenced it.
No, and that was a good thing. I actually read something the other day. Forgive me, the writer is escaping me, but they said they were actually going somewhere with that story, which I don't care. We refer to that.
That's when Marvel listened to the sales. People didn't like it. They listened to the audience, and they said, "We got a course correct."
Right.
Modern Marvel, we don't like Kamala Khan. Well, we're going to cancel the comic and give it to you again. Same team, nothing. Just change. Instead of issue 8, we're going to issue 7's the last issue. Now 8. The next issue is issue 1 again. Stan Lee tried a bunch of crazy stuff, and if it didn't sell, he went, "Oh well, at least I tried," and moved on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the problem with Punisher is that they were never comfortable with Punisher from the beginning.
No,
he was an anti-hero. The guy who created him, Jerry Conway, is now an old SJW who kind of disavows Punisher in a lot of ways, and they never put him in a comic, even though every time he showed up in Spider-Man, it was huge. It waited till 85 to get a miniseries. And it sold, but nobody was ever comfortable with it. Like the main editor, Carl Potts, I met him, and he, I talked about Punisher a little bit, and he wanted to make good stories, but he wasn't comfortable with Punisher either. None of them were, except for the guys who were writing them, like Barron and Dixon, and the guys who truly loved them. But
their runs are good.
Even the good ones weren't comfortable. So now when they finally got some power to change him, they're going to try to change him and justify him and all that stuff because he's not comfortable with that type of character.
Why do you think that is, Marcus?
Because they're all bleeding heart. They're
all liberals. They're all super
liberals.
And the idea of a guy walking around carrying a gun, taking out criminals, is horror to them. I mean, look at every Democrat. Guys are getting arrested 62 times, and these Democrats are just letting them out on the street again. I'll say it a million times. The difference between the left and the right is the left is feelings, the right is consequences.
Yeah.
Sorry, but there's got to be consequences. Good consequences, you work hard, you get to keep your money. That's a good consequence. Bad consequence, sorry. I mean, look at New York now. They're raising the taxes so they could give free health care so that you could go to work extra hours to pay extra taxes so you can have the free health care.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
It sounds good on paper. How about we get rid of free health care? Get rid of rent controls so the market could say everything, and then people wouldn't have to work as much, and then people can raise their own kids. But that's what it's all about. The left is, that sounds good. The right is consequences.
They used to call them in the 70s and 80s bleeding heart liberals, and now they call them SJWs.
Right.
They've always been there, except that social media has made it a lot more. Everybody's split way more, and there's no reason. There's no reasonable middle. And they're just not comfortable with guns. These people don't want to have the police have guns.
If I was to do a retcon, Punisher would never team up with a superhero. I like the Punisher. There's something cathartic about vigilante justice, but I could see Spider-Man and Daredevil. They team up. They take out this mob thing, and then the Punisher's like, "Wow, we make a pretty good team." And Spider-Man would be like, "Oh yeah, one less thing, webs." Wrap up, you know what I mean? And he would take Punisher into jail. But that doesn't try to take out the Punisher. You know what I mean? As conservative as I am, you can't have a guy with machine guns just mowing down people in the streets.
That's what Spider-Man wanted to do his first 5 appearances in the 70s. It was basically take him in.
Right. Was it the Fantastic Punisher was on the replacement Fantastic Four? It's no.
Made him use rubber bullets.
Running from Daredevil, running from Wolf. Wolverine might be the only guy who's just I'll hold the door for you. Hit me in the face. Give me a black eye. Make it look like you got away. That's the one guy that would let the Punisher. But
Spider-Man used to make him shoot rubber bullets, remember? I go, you're not
Daredevil was
killing anybody if
trying
I'm teaming up with you.
Tony, you keep raising your hand. What are you saying?
I was saying, didn't they make him black for a while and then
Well, that
bring
was
him
Barron,
back
so we have
as the Frankenstein monster, right?
Well,
Barron did it.
those
Barron
were
made him black.
those two things were, I mean, separated by quite a bit of time. What had happened was, and forgive me, I don't have my books in front of me, but in the Volume 1 series, I want to say it was 57, 58 is when that happened. Jigsaw, he so you remember in the original, like Mike Zeck, that the miniseries, the whole thing was like, okay, cool, I'm going to prison. There's a lot of criminals there, right? So they did that later on in Volume 1. He went back to prison and Jigsaw was there. And Jigsaw took out his revenge by, I mean, ripping Frank's face up with like a shiv.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
Destroyed his face, right? So he escaped with bandages all over him. And I think it's issue 57. It had a double cover. Actually, it had multiple covers. One of them was like a live action, photograph of a man with bandages on his face like this. But the cover that was over it was a double fold Punisher wanted poster. And it was cool as hell. I have it hanging in my kitchen. I have multiple copies of that issue just for that. Anyway, so what happened was he got so cut up that he went to like a black market plastic surgeon. I think it was a female. And at the end of the issue, he looks himself in the mirror and he's black. And she said, well, you wanted to look different, right? So it wasn't like it's some kind of weird like SJW thing. It was just, that was the 90s. And they were like, you wanted to look different, right?
Did he have like a line down here where he was white?
I don't
know.
know
That I remember, but he may have. And then the next issue was with him and Luke Cage on the cover.
Yeah, it was Barron. Barron wrote those.
Yeah.
But when he was Frankenstein, so what happened was he teamed. I think it was a Bloodstone, that 70s monster hunter, and now it's Elijah Bloodstone, the daughter, Elsa Bloodstone.
Of course, it's a daughter.
Yeah, Elsa Bloodstone.
He had her Bloodstone, and he was killed and beheaded. And they got the head sewed back on, and as long as he was holding the thing, it kept him alive. So it was Frankencastle for a while. So he had this stone like on him, and it slowly healed him so that he
oh, that's a great comic thing. I mean, you really can't get away with that stuff.
That was Rick Remender, Frank, and that was actually the name of the comic for like 5 or 6 issues.
That's pretty funny. I didn't read those. That's pretty funny. Whether it's good or not,
because if you during the Marvel, the 2000s, Punisher was like removed from Marvel continuity.
It's not a bad idea, actually.
And they were like, let's those Marvel Max stories, like they were really disturbing, but I thought they were some of the best Frank Castle stories ever. But then they were like, let's bring him back into continuity. So they gave Rick Remender a Punisher story, and to separate it from the gritty, realistic true crime, like those Punisher stories could have been an HBO series. That's how real with the Sopranos or something like that. So they made it as different as possible. And what happens? Frank Castle he goes to the Savage Land. He gets his head cut off. The Bloodstone makes him Frankencastle. It was as different could be.
Long as we're on the Punisher, my favorite Punisher is that short time. The begin with Chuck and John Romita Jr., where they really talked about Sopranos, mentioned Sopranos, but they really solidified that he was an Italian guy with a broken Italian nose. He could come in the mob. He's just beating the crap out of everybody. That was the best. And nothing's really been better than that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Warzone. Yeah, the Warzone series.
Warzone was so good.
And it made total sense. He actually had the alter ego. He had the ponytail, and he infiltrated the entire family.
And all the characters.
Yeah, that's Punisher, and I agree with you, John, in terms of what you're talking about with Ennis. Is it was not only necessary at the time to take Frank out of the Marvel universe, but also that it goes back to the Mac Bolan roots, the Executioner roots, the Death Wish roots, all that kind of stuff, where the character actually came from. So I totally respect Ennis for doing that. Absolutely. Again, my issue is as far as the retcon is that if you make it Frank's fault that his family died in any small capacity, it changes the character. It changes the motivations for me. Now, and maybe I'm just a moron and I don't get it, but
No, you're
for
doing
me,
great.
like that makes total.
I like the Punisher. I like the Punisher. Like if I was Frank Castle, if I was writing the Punisher, I would make every once in a while thinking about like, yeah, I gotta, like he shows up at a crime scene and he sees Electro's doing stuff, and he would be like, I can't deal with Electro, like he literally leaves. You know what I mean? Like that means Spider-Man's gonna be here, and this is gonna be trouble. Like I could see him like, okay, Electro's here. I can't fight Electro. I can't fight Magneto or the Lizard. You know what I mean? But not that he's cowardly. I could see him like firing off his guns or literally calling the police or something, like, to get Spider-Man over, because he's like, Spider-Man's going to show up and then there's going to be trouble between me and Spider-Man, and I can't fight Spider-Man. Like I'm and like he would leave, and people would be like, but I like that he's in Marvel, but he's dealing with stuff that he could deal with, just like Doctor Strange doesn't just deal with muggers. Doctor Strange has his own, what's the word, portfolio. He has his own, there's a specific word that I'm missing, that he deals with. I deal with, I could see Reed Richards, like he's driving to the Baxter building and he sees somebody getting mugged, stretching out the window, punching the guy and saving them. But that's not what he does. He's the scientific problem explorer. You know what I mean? Spider-Man is a great character because you could literally tell any story with Spider-Man. You know what I mean? He could go after the muggers. He could fight Dr. Doom. He could go to the Savage Land. He could go to the moon. But the Punisher, he's got to deal with mafia, crime, drug dealers. You know what I mean? What were you gonna say, Tony?
I was going to say another retcon series of retcons I would do is everything X-Men from Grant Morrison to the present. All that, throw it away. Chuck it.
I got a question then. Just forget about stuff like that, or in-house tell a story that undoes it.
We don't know how you can in-house tell a story about the Krakoa thing.
I could.
We don't. I mean, how can you fix that, John? The Krakoa saga? How?
Marcus, you know what's coming now, right? Mad Bomb Marvel.
Oh,
I've
right.
been hashtagging that for years. So, Tony, you would appreciate this story. I don't know if I've ever told you the story, but once upon a time in the old days, Jack Kirby was writing Captain America, and there was the Mad Bombs, and it was AIM or Hydra, one of those guys. They would do the. So anyway, there was these bombs, and the first Mad Bomb was powerful enough to make everybody on a city block act crazy.
Like fighting each other. Brutal.
Yeah, fighting each other crazy. The second Mad Bomb was big enough for like a state to everybody acts crazy. And then the third Mad Bomb was everybody in the United States just goes nuts, And Captain America deactivated all three Mad Bombs. It was 1977, I think, in Captain America, that crazy when Jack Kirby first returned to Marvel after going to DC. So I would say there's the fourth Mad Bomb that made the whole world crazy. And it detonated. And this is how I would do it. This is my story that Carol Danvers is acting weird. Like she looked like a man. They were joking around, Carol Manvers, and then she's hot again. I would have her if they're doing whatever she does. She's fighting whatever her villain is, and in the midst of the fight, one of her allies or one of her friends is like, Carol, what the hell? And she looks like a man again, and she's like, what? They're like, she gives her a mirror, and then all of a sudden she looks female again. And then a couple of days later, she looks male again. And they're like, what's going on? So she goes to Reed Richards. And Reed Richards examines her and he goes, what's your origin again? How'd you get your powers? she's like, well, Marvel came to Earth, and he, I was his liaison, and he jumped in front of the Omniwave bomb, and it blew through him. And literally, her origin is his DNA got thrown out of the bomb into me. I have Captain Marvel's, and that's how come I have Kree DNA. He's like, yeah, well, that DNA is male, and it's interfering. So you're fluctuating between male and female. Like, acknowledge, like, I'm one of these people that it was written in the comic, you have to accept it. You know what I mean? So, like, this is gonna break down. Your body's gonna react to this. This is like, like space cancer or something like that. So she's like, you're basically unstable now. This could be bad. He's like, what do you do? He's like, we extract the DNA, and they literally take out Marvel's DNA from the body. She retains her powers, and now they have a clone of Captain Marvel. I'm usually against clones, but this story, I think, but it's not Captain Marvel. It doesn't have the memories. It's just like a powerful infant, and now it's following her around. It's her sidekick, and he's just like, who is this Captain Marvel? And he's like learning the world, and she's telling him all the stories of Marvel and everything like that, flying around. And then he's like, does everybody have of these waves going into their brain? Because he has cosmic awareness. Never.
Nice. Yeah.
Right. He's like, what are you talking about? It's like there's these waves going around in everybody's head. And so she goes back to Reed Richards, and he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, these waves. So he flies. They find it's the fourth mad bomb. Only he could see it because only he has cosmic awareness. So they deactivate the mad bomb, and right away Bobby Drake goes, I'm not gay. Like, as soon as the bomb turns off, everybody laughs. Like, and he looks around, he's like wiping his face, and all the X-Men are just like, oh my God, we've been supremacists for like the past 5 years.
Bobby,
oh
my God, I was that guy in my butt.
And Peter Parker's just like, I'm married to Mary Jane. You know what I mean? Like, they all remember the way things, but they remember it. So now the X-Men are just like on an apology tour. Like, we were bad. We made mutant rights. We made the mutant movement look bad. That we are on the apology tour. They're going out doing whatever they can. Bobby Drake is now like, what am I mad at Jean? And Jean Grey is just like, there was no Phoenix Force. I was just manipulating everybody because I felt so much guilt about what I did. I psychically messed with everybody so that you thought there was a Phoenix Force, but it was really me. I can't deal with this, and they all come clean. All the superheroes, and Frank Castle's wife, who's that never happened. Frank Castle's just like, I'm back. You know what I mean? Like, it just explains everything, and like, I don't know. That's what I think. Mad Bomb Marvel. It's the only way out.
How would you fix DC then? Like, how would you fix Tim Drake? How would you fix?
I see. I don't.
How would you?
I would have some. Okay, Marcus.
I wanted to say before we move on to DC is that imagine you're Bobby Drake, and you were like, we read all those stories all those years, and he was the horn dog of the real horn dog of the group because Warren already always had a girlfriend, and he was in love with Polaris and all that. And then they made him gay. And now he's been gay for what, 10 years, 15 years? Can you imagine him saying, what have I been doing the last 15 years? I let all these guys do this to me? What the heck? I mean, that's a whole mess. That's a whole other mess.
Yeah, that could drive him insane. But in a way, I could see him being maybe bisexual because of Cloud. Does anybody?
He rejected Cloud. Once he found out Cloud could turn into a man.
Yeah, he rejected Cloud. I remember that.
He was always Cloud would have been the perfect partner for him. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, when Bobby Drake was in the Defenders, he met this super hot blonde naked chick named Cloud. She just had basically a Cloud bikini. And with Cloud, she would transform into a cloud. That was her power. And then when she reformed as human, she was male. and then she would turn into a cloud and reform. She was female. So every other incarnation, her sex would change. So now Bobby Drake is like, look at this freaking hot naked chick hanging around. Of course I like her. They're making out. She uses her powers. She returns. She's a male, and he's just like, wait a minute. And they broke up.
When they did that stuff, none of this was going on. So you didn't think twice. Oh, there's a character that's big deal, you know?
Did you ever read the Doctor Strange comic when the man hit on Doctor Strange? And Doctor Strange is like, what do you think? I'm a degenerate pervert?
Did you ever read the Doctor Strange comic where Ben Franklin slept with Clea, Doctor Strange's girlfriend?
Yeah, that was around the same time.
Yeah, well, Steve Englehart's got issues.
I wonder what would happen if Punisher came across some crooks that Spider-Man had webbed up. Yeah, he would shoot them. But
Frank Miller's the one who said that's an annual, and he goes away, and they finally get him in the jail. Denny O'Neil and Frank. It was really Frank Miller, and he goes, "Oh, there's all those criminals to kill," and that was the first time when they really made him a psycho, like that you know.
I think there's a way to fix it. Like I talk about this a lot, so people accuse me of repeating myself, but like. I believe like Misery, that movie Misery, when what's her name? The woman, she had him. She's like, no. Misery was in a coffin. She got buried. That's where you have to start. You can't change that. That was in the book. That's the way I feel. So we have to acknowledge all this crazy stuff because first off, for a couple of reasons. If it's in the comics, it happened. Second off, it's disrespectful. So what now? 4 years from now, somebody could come and redo my stories. You know what I mean? Like it's in there, like it, but at the same time, now I'm running Marvel. It's just like, no, we can't just have things happen because you think it's a cool idea. Like Chuck Dixon talks about a lot of cool ideas he had for Batman, and Denny O'Neil goes, no, that changes the character too much. We can't do that. And Chuck was like, okay, you know what I mean? Like Chuck Dixon said, you bend the characters, you don't break them. We can't have Peter Parker prancing around, making like the Human Torch is having sex with slug aliens.
I saw that one. Ugh.
Come on, and that's another thing. Johnny Storm wakes up and is like, "What did I do?" Oh,
right. That's what my point. Right, the same thing. What the heck did I just
what? Do? And like as much as I hate it, I could see like Sue looking at Namor and being like, like. Well, I'm happily married with Reed. You know what I mean? But how would I? It would have to be some sort of cosmic story where they find out that there's something fundamentally wrong with the universe in DC. Almost like there's a creature, like a Galactus or a Beyond.
Maybe the source.
And every time his heart beats, the universe gets rebooted. And now it's basically having the equivalent of like a cosmic heart attack. So it's having fluctuations. So the reboots are happening faster and faster. So they need the Spectre and Dr. Fate and the Phantom Stranger and all of these cosmic beings literally. And now its heartbeat slow and it's normal. And now the universe, wherever it's set now, it's not going to reboot. You know what I mean? And maybe, something like that.
Actually, I had my version of that would be the everything from the new 52 to now has been on Earth Rainbow, right? And we got to return back to Prime Earth. There's an Earth Rainbow there, an Earth Sparkle, an Earth Glitter, where everyone is gay and all that stuff, and it's over there and it exists. But now we're going to go back to the real universe.
It's funny to make characters gay. You just don't have to make the ones that weren't gay. Like weren't gay. That's all. Nobody cares.
You ruined Alan
That's another thing that I forgot about this, but I thought of this a long time ago. So like every time there's a reboot, okay, so somewhere there's the equivalent of the Watcher in DC, the Observer. Okay, so the Observer, we introduce this character. And what the Observer does is he focuses on Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3. So now he either gets bored or like the original Alan Scott shows up and the Observer now changes his focus. So every time the Observer changes his focus, the comics reflect what the Observer is looking at. And now he's going to go back to pre-crisis and there's Earth 1, Earth 2. You know what I mean? So they all exist.
Changing the channels. Cosmically changing the channel.
But now the Observer is now focused over here again.
Nice. That's a good one.
Something like that. Or maybe his heart was beat. I don't know. But that's the way I'd fix DC. I don't know. I like Earth S. You know, Earth 2, the Golden Age, you know. And you can still have Earth Pride. There's your pride. You can still have Earth Pride and tell those stories. And then, you know, label you know, whatever. And then let the market decide which continuity.
Exactly. Perfectly said.
And then you can have like an annual team up where the Earth, you know, Earth 52 teams up with Earth 2 and Earth 1 and then Earth Pride and have all those characters, you know. And then you can see John Constantine like looking at Earth Pride, John Constantine, just like, I ain't shaking your hand. I know it.
Well, I want to talk about a retcon that
Sure.
everybody I didn't like, and we all tried to buy. Heroes Reborn.
Oh,
They sold it back to Image, and Rob Liefeld still claims we outsold everybody from. I don't know why they hated us because he
Yeah, but then why did it end?
Excuse me.
Then why did it end if it was selling so well?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, why did it end? Exactly. And particularly the Fantastic Four by Lee wasn't that much different if it was drawn by Jim Lee. It wasn't that much.
That was the best out of all of them.
That was the best one. And Simonson did write the Avengers.
What I liked about that is they made everything about Galactus. They tied it all to
Yeah,
Galactus.
I could see that.
That would have been a great Fantastic Four movie. If they
Like
took
his
the
Captain
heroes
America is embarrassing.
that
And
was
it's not just the picture that he drew and everyone makes fun of it. If you go through that first issue, it's just so disjointed and so badly done and so rushed. It's bad for even him.
Chuck Dixon pulled his name off it. That's how bad it was.
Gee, I wonder why.
And to this day, Chuck Dixon and Rob Liefeld don't get along.
And
Yeah,
the
Chuck-
sad part about it was, now we're all not fans of Mark Waid, but at the time, Mark Waid and Ron Garney had taken over Captain America after Mark Grunwald finally left after like 10 years. And to be honest with you, Mark Grunwald was about the end. Cap is dying of cancer. He's wearing armor. Like he was kind of at the end of his run at that point. I know it's a well thought of run. And they just rebooted it and they got Captain America. And it was like a breath of fresh air. And it ended. It just got truncated. They brought it back and they hired the same guys, but it wasn't quite the same.
Mark Waid Captain America run was a good. Mark
It
Waid
was
was a good
good.
comic writer.
I liked Mark Waid for a long time.
I
yeah.
wish I didn't know about him. You know what I mean?
Him and Kurt Busiek. I wish I didn't know either.
Kurt Busiek, he was a member of, I had a forum around 2000 and there was 35 members and Kurt Busiek was one of them. We used to talk. And then fast forward 15 years later, he blocks me on Twitter and then he blocks me on Blue Sky because I didn't insult him. I just posted some conservative views. You know, he resists. Kurt Busiek resists.
I remember that Kurt Busiek resists, and Astro City's really good, and a lot of stuff he did was really good. The
Heroic
Marvel,
Tales. Matt, do you know I have a comic, Heroic Tales?
I do, man. I do. The ads are great, and
Heroic Tales.
again, I just saw you recently. Let me ask you.
Let me just finish what I
Yeah,
said.
I'm sorry. Go
Heroic
ahead,
Tales
brother.
Inspired by Astro City.
that's right.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's how much I love Kurt Busiek, and this guy is a
I
little.
love Astro City.
I can get along with him.
You know, you're not blocked by
I can get
Alex
How
Ross.
come conservatives can get along with liberals, but liberals can't get along with conservatives?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I want to say that, and I may be wrong about this, John, but I saw some kind of, I think it was a response to a post earlier today. You said that Jimmy Palmiotti blocked you?
Yeah.
For what? For
Did he
what?
block you?
Like he was on your channel. Like
Yeah, he was on my channel twice.
Yeah, they fight. Yeah.
and he was talking crap about conservatives and Republicans.
Right.
I said, why did you move to a Republican state?
Did you say that today?
No. This is what started the fight with me and Jimmy Palmer.
I remember.
and
Yeah,
not that I'm trying to even get into
Right,
you
but-
know, like
but
I don't
this-
want to push you
you
into
brought
that.
it
But
up.
I was just like kind of flabbergasted because
Right.
like obviously
giving people-
the posts that he makes are extremely liberal. He hates Trump. I get it. But I'm a Palmiotti fan. He seems like a decent dude, right? So and I don't give a damn because I'm not a liberal. So it's
I'm trying to answer.
Sorry, brother.
You got to watch the camera and see when people are trying to talk.
Sorry, brother.
But Jimmy Palmiotti, he was talking. So I said, you grew up in Democrat, blue, diverse Queens, and you moved to white, Republican, conservative Florida. Why? Why? You know, and I said, and so he's telling me why. Blah, blah. I said, but that doesn't matter. I said, your ass is sleeping in a red state. Your family's safe, your wife is safe, everything you do is in a red state, but your mouth is blue. I said, but I don't listen to people's mouths. I listen to people's asses, and your ass is red. And he blocked me. I just find it so ridiculous. I live in Boston, and I'm going to talk all, you know, I live in New York. I was born in New York. I'm getting the hell out of here as soon as I retire. You know what I mean? So call me a hypocrite. I can't really defend myself. But in my defense, New York wasn't always blue. New York was like, and blue wasn't always crazy. You know, my dad was a Democrat. My mom was always a Republican. So that was kind of fun. That's probably why I could get along with everybody. But like, you know, back being Democrat meant you wanted strong borders, strong defense. You know, you didn't mind social services. Now being a Democrat means kids can get kidnapped and have their, you know, sex organs sexually mutilated, and we have to import infinity amount of foreigners, and they don't have to work, they don't have to get jobs, we just have to support them. Like, at what point can we admit that it's crazy? You know? But Jimmy Palmiotti, whatever. What's up, Tony?
A couple more retcons.
Okay, Tony's pulling us back.
Always bothered me that Xavier chose Magneto to head the school. Did that always bother you? This man was a mutant supremacist, a war criminal, just as bad as the Red Skull. In fact, he was probably the mutant version of the Red Skull. And now it's okay. And then they break him out, and that bothered me. And the second,
that's a John trope. Come on.
Yeah. And the second one was Origin. They did the worst thing in the world with Wolverine. You showed too much of Wolverine.
Wow.
It was better to keep Wolverine mysterious, hidden, like Weapon X, Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X. They should not have. I didn't care. As soon as they told me his name was James Hewlett, and they gave him this really wimpy origin story, and the big reveal that Sabretooth wasn't even his brother or his dad. He was just some guy that really looks like him and has powers, but they're completely different. It took the mystique out of it. The more you look at something, the more you know about it, the less mysterious it is, the less interesting it becomes. The thing
about Wolverine was he was a man of mystery.
Exactly.
Now we know what he had for breakfast the day after he was born. You know, yeah, I agree to a certain extent. But I'm worried about Magneto. You know, I'm doing the Sunday comics with the you know, the Chris Claremont run, and so far every appearance of Magneto is he's a raving lunatic, and that's who you choose to run the school.
Well,
you know what I mean?
And the irony is that Chris Claremont's the one who chose to run the school. He's the one to rehab Magneto.
He can't. At what point can you reform? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I agree, but he's the one who rehabbed Magneto. It wasn't like these other crazy people that are running.
After John Byrne left, I must point out.
Well, that's one of the reasons why John Byrne left, because they were fighting about stuff like that, right?
Yeah. Like, could Hitler reform and run a mitzvah?
Well, there's a lot of people who like Hitler now. So.
Could Ben Laden reform and run for office? Well, I guess he did. His name's Mandani now, but whatever. Another retcon that I would make, now that you got me on the X-Men, is, Matt, I'll ask you, since you're the new guy. What does it mean to be a mutant? Your mic's off.
I mean, I guess it all depends, because to me, so like Chuck Dixon has said, right? He's made it known that he's not really a big fan of the X-Men because they're
whiny,
whiners, right? You know, and
yeah, but so, you're not. And you think about this question: what is the definition of a mutant?
In terms of the comic creation, or in
Of
terms of
anything.
if I
What
was
is-
inside
what is
the
the
Marvel
literal-
universe?
You know, if I ask you the definition of a sword, give me the definition. If I'm asking you the definition of the word mutant, what does it mean?
I would think it would be a genetic mutation in terms of
Correct. You're
whatever we're
different
talking
from
about
your parents.
in this. But as far as the X-Men is concerned,
Not even. Just what does the word mutant mean?
genetically different, I guess.
Right. You're different than your parents. So if Scott Summers and Jean Grey have a kid, it's different from them.
Right.
Otherwise, because if Scott Summers has a kid and it shoots eye beams, that kid's not a mutant.
Mm-hmm.
That means that they're stable. Most children, even of mutants, shouldn't be mutants. They should just be normal humans. You know what I mean? Like it's unpredictable. Otherwise, they're a stable race. And to me, I think that would make it like, oh, Colossus, Kitty Pryde, they got married, they have a kid. Oh, he's a normal human. And
I think that makes sense because often recessive genes skip a generation, like
Correct.
blue eyes or something.
that I couldn't think of the word. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you,
You're
Marcus.
welcome.
That's exactly what
It's late, but I got recessive going.
it should be. Recessive, weird, rare, and unpredictable. You know what I mean? Like, and that should be something that Magneto is like researching. Like, I got to make it stable. You know, what if it's just a fluke? What if it's going to die out? You know, Magneto should be like, we shouldn't be fighting, because if we fight, we risk killing each other. And then there's going to be no mutants. Like there's nobody's thinking of I was just about to say like a green-eyed race or like Elizabeth Taylor, who had purple eyes. Is she the only person in the world with purple eyes? Like, she should be looking for other people and like trying to make that trait stable or whatever. But that's what I think. Mutants, and I also think that most mutants should have detrimental mutations, so that by the time you make it to the Xavier School or get a costume, you're like, you survived. Like, there's a kid. Okay. Matt, and I don't know if you don't take this personally, Matt and his wife, they had a kid. It's a mutant. This kid can only survive in methane and it dies. You know what I mean? Because by the time they figured it out, it took more than a couple of minutes to figure that out. You know what I mean? So most mutants shouldn't survive to adulthood. I think being a mutant should be a horrible, scary thing. Because nowadays, who wouldn't want a mutant? Like, you live in the Marvel universe, you should be praying. My kid's going to be good looking, gorgeous. He's going to be able to transform into steel. He's never going to die. And if he does die, he's going to come back to life. You know,
Or it could almost be like where when the mutant gene starts, that they're actually through childhood, maybe teenager years, or whenever the powers kick in, that they go through this period of Morlock type stuff.
ooh.
And they're Morlocks until they get to their final form or whatnot. You know what I mean?
What if all of the cases of spontaneous human combustions were mutants who discovered they were mutants and they just took themselves out accidentally? Tony?
Do you remember Earth X, Alex Ross? Remember? Yeah. Okay, remember the whole thing about that? It was Dr. Doom. He released the Terrigen Mist all over the world. So everyone had powers, but everyone was different. Some people, so it was like what you were saying, John. Everyone had powers, but everyone's powers were unique and different to them. So you had a kid that was born between two mutant superheroes. He was a fish boy. Right. He could turn into slime. So that's a good idea, right?
Like, if I took over the X-Men, I would almost make it a horror comic. Like, you know, like,
well, I don't know if it would be as popular, but I see your point.
You know, like, I mean, it's oh my God, we don't want, you know,
if you go back to the original, what did Lee and Kirby or even Roy Thomas, they really called them Children of the Atom.
Right.
The idea was because early Marvel is all about, you know, nuclear power and the commies. You know,
and the Inhumans.
Yeah.
Marcus, I know Tony remembers. He remembers all the strange minutia. But does anybody remember the Alpha Primitives?
I remember the Alpha Primitive. Yeah.
Tony, what were the Alpha Primitives? Tell people, because if I say
essentially the original where the Inhumans lived was a place called Atalon. Later, it was on Earth. Later, they relocated to the blue side of the dark side of the moon. But what the Alpha Primitives were genetically engineered slaves,
Right.
and they were not allowed to reproduce. So each one, they were exact copies of each other. They didn't have genitals, so they were just there to do the job, and that's it. And they were like disposable. You could buy them 6 in a box, like bombs. They did the job. They died. They'd run out and get more.
I
And
could use them today.
I'm remembering. I forgot who it was that did it, but they had like somebody wrote a story. I think in the '80s. I think it was for a Marvel graphic novel where they just released them. They like gave them sentience, and they were just walking around going, "Well, what the hell am I supposed to do now? This is my job. This is all I know. I can't reproduce. I can't have sex. I can't do this or that. I just do what I'm made to do." And then I guess it was Black Bolt that said, "We're not going to make any more. We're just going to use the ones that we have, and then as soon as they die out, we'll stop with this." But it was a sad thing. The Alpha Primitives, very, very sad.
The humans had slaves.
Yeah.
But and I forget if it was John Byrne, but somebody made it so that it was on the 12th, like all the Inhumans are so inconsistent. I would fix up their continuity, but I like that they were created by the Kree because they found out that humans were mutable or whatever, and they made this army, and then the Kree either got defeated, so they couldn't come back to Earth, and now the Inhumans are living in the Great Refuge, whatever. But they would expose their children to the Terra Humans, and that would unlock their power.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while, I see this is different, but then again, the humans have an inconsistent continuity.
Well,
Well, let me finish. They get exposed, and then like, yay, Tony's got energy powers that can burst into flame. Yay, Matt's got super tentacles, and he's can teleport. Oh man, John's Longbox, he turned into an Alpha Primitive. They were failed humans, and he got banished to be a Morlock down below.
If I'm remembering correctly, the Primitives were just genetically engineered. Now,
this is the inconsistency.
Now, occasionally you get a screw up like Lockjaw. Lockjaw was a person that when he was exposed to the mist, he turned into a giant bulldog with a tuning fork on his head.
I thought that was great. Why not? Because there's no other inhuman animals.
Yeah,
and they're all different. Why not have Lockjaw be a guy that turned into Lockjaw? He's not bad. He's not a slave. We just can't talk, and he's super powerful.
He's got to be pretty miserable, though. Could you imagine?
Lockjaw always looked happy, drinking big bowls of milk and converting it.
Well, I don't think anybody decided he was a failed inhuman until Byrne. I'm not sure Lee and Kirby did that. I think it was just the dog.
Right.
I think it's one of those things that Kirby just drew. Oh, Crystal would have a dog. Let me put a dog in there. You're like Jack Kirby. It just stuff shows up on the page, and you're like, "What the heck's going on?"
But does anybody? And then when Talon went to the moon, they left the Alpha Primitives there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wonder. I'm sure Marvel doesn't have them as the slave race anymore. Yeah.
No, no, I'm sure we don't.
John,
Probably a guy with orange hair and orange skin, like.
Hey, John, did you ever see the Inhumans TV show? That was so.
I couldn't wait to see it. And by the time I went to watch it, it was already off the air.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. I saw all the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
And then when they killed him in the movie, where what was her name, Scarlet Witch, like he was gonna yell at her, and then she like closed his mouth, and he blew the back of his brain out. I was like, oh man, I love Black Bolt.
There's a retcon that I would do.
They'll bring that back.
So here's my retcon for that movie. They're like, Scarlet Witch is about to, and then Reed Richards goes, "Hey, I know where your kids are. We could get your kids." Well, he goes, "No, stop. I know what we could do. Black Bolt could fly around the universe, different dimensions, and find your kids. Black Bolt, why don't you tell her where her kids are?" And then she listens. He speaks. That problem is solved. It's so stupid. Don't get me started on the movies. I would retcon so much of the movies.
Oh yeah, that's a whole thing, and yet the Black Bolt thing, that's 100% true. But also, man, I wanted to tell you, John, before I go, I'm gonna have to dip out. And
Yeah,
dude,
well, I
thank
got
you
to go
so
to bed
much.
soon anyway.
Been up for a while today, but just wanted to say your Galactus pitch that I've heard about him, about your pitch about him having to fight cosmic Cthulhu beings and things like that. It's brilliant. That is the way that it should be. It makes sense.
Well,
that
to me redeems Fantastic Four 262, the trial of Reed Richards. Why would it bothers me? First off, they bring in this local storm god Odin into a whole other galaxy. They should be like, who the hell is this guy? We don't worship Odin. We don't recognize this guy. Who is he? He's a storm god for Earth. What does that have to do with me? I'm a Perplexian. Bring in my local deity. He'll tell you Galactus sucks. You know what I mean? But they bring him in and they're all awed by him. And then Galactus, and then they bring in the Watcher and he turned. So it's like, why? Because he's a test? Yeah, but you know what? Smallpox was a natural disease, but we overcame it. We had a test for Galactus. Okay, fine. So what basically said is all you guys, because it was filled up with people who survived Galactus's test or failed Galactus's test. All you guys are losers. All you guys are losers. So shut up. Enjoy extinction. Your worlds don't matter in the grand scheme of things because Galactus he's a tornado, and you guys, your trailer park got destroyed in the tornado. Screw you. No, but then we find out. No, we're saying this because you guys can't know what's going on out there. It would destroy your brains. And now we find out Galactus is the first line of defense to these things from beyond the universe. And something has happened because originally it was implied that Galactus didn't need planets that often. But now there's an incursion. Maybe the time is right. The stars are lining up. Whatever it is, Galactus needs to feed more. And if he doesn't feed, sorry, it's the end of it's the end of all existence. I got super chats, which I never get, so thank you. RRTNZ, easy retcon. Disney never gains control of Marvel Studios or Star Wars. Jim Shooter is installed of ESC. Yeah, Jim Shooter never got fired. That would be a great retcon. But also, Jim, you're a fixer. Let things run once they're fixed. That was Jim's problem.
Yeah, I mean, his new universe didn't work out too well.
I don't have a problem that he did in the universe, but it's like let the other stop with the events. That's another retcon. You want to have an event once every 5 years at the maximum. Once every 5, and it's got to be brilliant. We got 5 years to think of it. Part 2, all different, and Marvel never happens. I agree. Thank you, RRTNZ. I don't know. Anybody else have anything else? We've been talking for almost 2 hours. I know Marcus is dying.
I'm better than I thought. So
yeah,
but just so you know, yeah. But I
got to go to work at 3, but still I got to.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys so much. This is awesome. You guys are all awesome. It's very nice to meet you, and I appreciate the opportunity. This is open invite. Anybody's coming in, turn on your camera. I want to talk to faces, not some cartoon avatar. You guys are overly kind. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
We have open invite means open invite. Everybody's welcome. We'll just talk about comics. So Matt, we'll start with Matt. We'll go around and we'll say our goodbyes. Matt.
Again, just thank you so much. Don't really have anything to plug right now. There's things that I'm working on, but that's in the future. But just wanted to say I enjoyed the channel very much, and very much appreciate y'all's commentary. It gets me through work in many days and has for a while now. So I appreciate you all. Tony, have a great night. Marcus, have a great night. John, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Y'all take it easy.
Come back. Oh! Before we go, what is next week? What do you want to do for it's Clobber time next week?
Well, for me, for everyone, or
for a topic.
If you want to come back, if you have a topic.
Man, there's a lot because every time I listen to these episodes, they just start popping up, and I
think about it all week, and I come up with good ones, and then
what popped up in my head today is, and it might sound stupid, but Mike Barron's Badger versus DC's Vigilante, because they're both kind of crazy. Might be a short episode, or something like Vampirella versus Witchblade, or Solomon Grundy versus Frankenstein's monster. I don't know, man. These are just random freaking things, you know. So
Yeah,
whatever y'all want, either way, I'll be there listening. So, you know, there could be Mirror Master versus Multiple Man. I mean, who knows? Yeah. Whatever y'all want.
Tony, do you have any ideas?
What about craziest character and the most insane characters in comics?
I mean, I would put the Mask up there as one of them.
How about I said that? How about the character that has the most inconsistent characterization?
Can you give me an example?
Like Magneto was a raving lunatic. Now he's mutant rights activist.
Ah, okay.
Batman and his multiple personalities.
Well, we're not. You know, that's just the idea. We're not going to start.
I know, but I was just trying to underscore there was more than one just Magneto. But I did have an idea, and I thought maybe not for next week.
Oh, how about worst runs? We talked about the best runs.
Maybe I didn't buy all those runs.
How about the worst run? Yeah,
we have to put a cap on that because us old guys, we just go right to 1999, 2000. You know, like right to Image, and I don't want to pick on Image too much. You know, I got to draw with Image guys tomorrow.
It's clobbering time. The most inconsistent character.
I did have an idea for a future show. I just thought of it now. What if Marvel or DC? I was thinking of Marvel. Did the real Thor and the real Hercules, and you like mythology in Greek, instead of this cartoon ones?
Okay.
But maybe not next week. But just thought.
I think next week we'll get it. Which characters have been completely inconsistent? You know, almost like
I think that's good.
Like the example that I'm going to give is, you know, when Magneto showed up, he was a world-conquering megalomaniac, and then later on, he's like this. Oh, I just want peace for my people, and you know, Martin Luther King or Malcolm X would have been pissed off. Like this guy represents me. The guy was a raving lunatic, you know, throwing dinosaurs at the X-Men. Knock it off. But anyway, that's what we'll do next week.
That's a good one. I like that. Yeah.
All right. So Tony, anything you want to say as we leave?
Yeah, watch Marcus draw stuff. Support John, please. And have everyone have a good night.
You too, Marcus.
I'm on the studio tomorrow. We don't have a guest. The chat is going to decide what we draw, all 7 of them. They're going to add another studio episode Thursday. Don is going to add Day. Who's Day? We'll see if I show up to that one. I can't stream every day. I'm worn out from the streaming I do now. You know, so we'll see. But tomorrow at 7, watch me draw in the studio and make fun of other people.
Don Draws Stuff is the name of the channel, right?
Don Draw Stuff. That's on the channel, right?
And then, guys, I got 1 billion pages in the past couple of weeks. Oh, I was saying this earlier, and then I got sidetracked. But a couple of people were asking what's going on with Eddie is Doomed. I was pushing Eddie is Doomed for a while, and then I just stopped talking about it. But Eddie is Doomed is a shared concept. Oscar, myself, and Tonic Ball. It's going to be kind of set in the Heroic Tales universe. But I've been quiet about it because Tonic Ball has 3 of his own projects. So I didn't want to start talking because he's justifiably trying to get it. So just yesterday, I was like, so what's the update on Eddie? Because I'm almost done. He submitted 2 pages and now he's almost done. So he's just going to drop them all. So I told Oscar, Eddie's Tonic's almost, he's like that. He's not maniacal, you know. When he gets focused to something like that, he admits that he's autistic. So like when he gets focused, he wasn't thinking about me or anything like that. He just wants to get it done. So Eddie is Doomed. You know, now it's funny because Oscar is like a couple of pages ahead. Now we're waiting on Oscar, but you know, Oscar, you got to see the pages that he submitted. So who knows? Maybe that's another comic that will get done this year. So there you go. So that's I got a Patriarch is like 2/3 done. Eddie is Doomed. I don't know because Tonic hasn't dropped off the pages yet, but he said he's almost done. Heroic Tales 3 is already written, and I was gonna have it being Mary Sue and the Raven, but I think I'm gonna have it Mary Sue and the Sleeper Agent because Luke is done with his story.
Oh, good.
And then Heroic Tales 4 will be the Raven and whoever. Maybe Public Eye, maybe
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But that's what's going on. So I think Heroic Tales, I want to have one Renzo story and then one non-Renzo story.
I think that's a good idea. Oh, all right.
And then so I'm still working on my Santa Claus story, and King Fu Blue Christmas is as soon as we're done with Patriarch, Renzo's going right into that. I'm going to launch the campaign as soon as he has the cover in 5 pages. So because the whole goal is that it's going to be a streamlined campaign, only that comic, no add-ons. Well, there's going to be a cool add-on. I take it back. There's going to be an add-on that is so freaking cool. But other than that, no back issues, nothing. It's just a streamlined. This is the campaign, whatever. All right, but that's the news for Longbox Comics. So
Sounds good.
Anybody want to say anything before the clown starts talking?
I wonder why you used a clown. I missed that somehow.
Oh, Tony left.
When did the clown start?
I don't know. I just thought it would be
I
funny.
was with my dad, or I was away or something. I missed that.
This clown it's from the last episode of Howdy Doody.
Yeah. Then Clarabelle never talked.
Clarabelle never spoke. So the only time he talked, he said goodbye, kid, and it scared the hell out of a generation.
I don't blame you. It's scary now.
And I think it's the funniest thing. I just picture like little kids, like he's gonna talk. Oh!
Yeah. I think you're right.
So that's where it came from.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you both.
Oh, no problem, Matt.
Y'all have
Anytime.
a great night.
I mean, it's anytime, but anytime.
Oh, I maybe tomorrow night at midnight, I'm gonna do a roll up a character in Villains Vigilantes and have the whole chat contribute. Have like a character by committee.
Nice.
But we'll see how I feel when I come home from work. All right, so goodbye, kids.
All right. Good night, John. Thank you.
Goodbye, kids.
I got to bring up the super chat. Stormbase, you didn't have to tip out, but thank you. Every dollar that goes super chat goes to pay StreamYard. So thank you. StreamYard keeps raising the prices, and as you can see, the service gets worse and worse. So thank you, Stormbase. Thank you so much. It was good to have you. Like, subscribe, super chat, whatever. Thanks a lot.